Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another Zoom edition of ATI. Dan with Brian and Matt. We're going to dive into the end of The Last Dance. The final two episodes aired on Sunday. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Kendrick Perkins and all his opinions on Twitter. We'll get to some other things as well. But let's start with The Last Dance. Final two episodes aired on Sunday. We can talk about the documentary as a whole, and we can also get into specifically these final two episodes. As far as the final two episodes, as you recall last week, I was excited about seeing a lot of the footage and seeing a lot of the players that were involved talk about that series with the Pacers, that Eastern Conference Final series. And I think one of the favorite parts of the last two episodes was hearing Reggie Miller talk, and specifically hear Reggie and some of the other guys talk about that buzzer beater that Reggie hit in the conference finals. That's one of my all-time favorite buzzer beaters for a couple of reasons. First of all, you've got the Reggie push-off where he blatantly pushes Jordan, and Reggie even basically admitted it in the documentary that he pushed Jordan off, and then he got the ball and he sank it. You also have the amazing reaction from Larry Bird, who was the coach of the Pacers, and by I mean reaction, I mean non-reaction. Right. Larry doesn't even blink when the shot is hit, it was just incredible. And then you also have the fact there was, I think, 0.7 seconds left when he hit the shot, and Jordan nearly made a buzzer beater of his own, which would have just won up the crazy buzzer beater by Reggie. So that was one of my favorite parts of the last couple episodes. But what did you guys think of the way it wrapped up and as a whole? We can dive into everything.
I thought it was pretty cool. They talked about how the Pacers were the toughest team they faced outside of the Pistons. Yeah. And it's a combination of things. I think it was, the Pacers were good. But also I think that the Bulls are starting to run out of gas a little bit. And it really would have been different if the Bulls had lost and Jordan played the full year. I think by him going out and winning on top, that really did a lot for his legacy, And I mean, he played for, Washington and whatever. I mean, that's kind of an afterthought. But, winning 6 was a big deal. And they talk about, we could have been 8 and blah, blah, blah. But the Pacers team, they ended up playing, was it Utah, right? And they said, Utah is a lot better this year. And they retooled. And I'm like, I don't know. It would have been funky if the Pacers won it. It would have been like Kansas City Royals won the World Series or something funky, because they wouldn't have been able to sustain it. But that was Bird's first year coaching. I think he won Coach of the Year that year. And he's like the only guy that I know of that won Coach of the Year doesn't get fired by the time he gets the award. Right. Like all those guys always get fired. So, but it was pretty cool. And it was nice that, I read some quotes where Bird will say to him, you didn't beat me because I couldn't put a uniform on or something. They're back and forth. And then there was some language between the two of them, which was kind of funny in the locker room.
And Jordan.
Yeah, at the end, which I thought was kind of interesting. And but it was a really good series. I thought, I remember watching it. I talked to a lot of other people in their 20s that don't even actually remember it,
Yeah.
And but it was cool to see. They replay it every once in a while, like on the NBA TV and stuff. So, but it was nice to see.
I was impressed, but also a little saddened. And I don't know if you guys kind of caught on. It obviously a lot of the Jordan stuff very repetitive, right? He was in the league for almost 20 years, and a lot of it's the same, right? There was this guy pissed him off, and he used it to carry on, and he destroyed him the next, right? So we heard that story 8-9 times, and I was really dumbfounded. And like Brian just said, I don't really remember the 98 Pacers series because I was only 4.5 years old, right? But everyone that was around that I've talked to kind of was like, I forgot how great of a series that was. And obviously seeing it through this documentary showed it. But I was kind of upset. They only spent, I think it was maybe half of that episode really on it. And they jumped around. It was like, all right, here's the buzzer beater. Here's some Jordan, Reggie stuff. Here's Game 7. And even Game 7, they kind of rushed through, in my opinion. So, I mean, I know they kind of –
Pacers had them on the ropes in that Game 7.
Right.
Yeah. And I would have, if you had spent maybe 2 episodes on that instead of – I don't know. I know everyone wanted to hear about the gambling, but honestly, we were all let down and disappointed. We all knew we were going to be disappointed that they were going to gloss over it. So, if you had spent 2 episodes on that Pacer series, I feel like that would have been a much better job overall. And then going into the last one, I thought the best part of the whole documentary was giving Steve Kerr the chance to talk about his father and what a great person he was. And I didn't know that story, but I'm sure there people were. But I just thought that was great to give Kerr that platform after you basically belittle him by saying you punched him in the face, and then give him that platform to talk. I thought that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I had known that his father had been murdered in the Middle East. I didn't know the specifics. I thought he was like an ambassador, but I guess it turned out he was the president of a university. So that was really, that was educational to learn that about.
When he died, that was a really, really big deal, especially like politically and because it's the Middle East, and it was the kind of thing where the guy that he replaced got kidnapped.
Right.
So like he mentions, he's like, hey, I would have loved to be here with the president, but he's gone. I think they ended up killing him too. It was a really sad story for everybody involved with it. I mean, I'm not a big Steve Kerr fan, but when you hear that story, you gotta feel bad. You can't not feel bad, nothing but feel bad for him. And his mother and everybody, the whole family.
Yeah, and you kind of forget about that backstory with Steve Kerr, because that is, and I think they were trying to kind of weave this into the documentary, how that was kind of a way that Michael and Steve could bond. Obviously a very dark thing to bond over, but both of them lost their fathers in a very dark way. They were murdered. So that was an interesting way to sort of tie that in. I think it was almost like breaking news was the fact that they revealed, or at least the way that Michael wants to tell it, that it wasn't the flu, it was food poisoning.
Smell that? You smell the BS meter? Anybody smell that stink? So you got, okay. So go ahead, Dan, but you got the pizza game, now it's the flu game. You got all this Horace Grant stuff that we can get into in a sec. And then you got the, I didn't gamble enough, I didn't get suspended, I wanted to play basketball because my dad wanted me to. How much BS can you put in one documentary?
What do you guys think of the new explanation that it was food poisoning and not a flu?
So I'll admit, at first I was like, he's taking one of the biggest Jordan moments of all time. Like, if you ask people about Jordan, like, what's your one thought? I guarantee you there's a strong, high percentage that say the flu game is the most memorable, right?
Flu game is big, yeah.
Yeah, so you take that and boom, you crush like one of the biggest things in your legacy. At least kind of in big picture, one of the biggest things, you get rid of it. All of a sudden, you try to come up with this BS story. Everyone had believed it was the flu. I mean, sure, there were some people close to him and in the NBA circles that had their own opinions, but the majority of people, it's the flu. We're going to stick with this story. Now you come up with this other BS story about 5 guys delivering a pizza in a hotel room. Like, that's just weird.
We got to ask Carmen Electra what the real story was.
Probably.
Because he was drunk, okay? Is he hungover? Can everybody agree that he was drunk and hungover?
Oh, probably, yeah.
I mean, he was smoking like 5 cigars a night by then, okay? At 2 a.m., he's like, I want a pizza. You only eat pizza at 2 a.m. if you're drunk, okay? So, and everybody's like, I'm not that drunk. I'm not eating pizza from Utah. Like, I went to England and I want a pizza, and my dad's like, you're not gonna like that. I'm like, I want pizza. I mean, he's like, okay, you can have pizza in England. Take a look around. There's not a lot of Italian restaurants in this part of England, And it was like, and I was like, oh, it was bad. It was bad, but same idea. But yeah, this BS on that. And then I don't know if you guys want to get any of the Horace Grant stuff. Did you read any of that?
So Horace Grant has been really criticizing him specifically with the documentary, and basically saying this is not a true documentary because it's just Jordan's point of view, and he's basically calling it BS. But you go and get into it, Brian.
Yeah, well, just a lot of the stuff. It's kind of like, you guys are a bunch of nobodies, and then I came here and I did this. I mean, so Matt, you were 4 in 1998, right?
Yeah.
So you have no idea how good Horace Grant was. You can read it. You can watch old film. Dan, you have a little better handle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a really good player. I mean, if you looked at it, it was basically in the East. You had the Celtics and the Pistons, and then Jordan was a ball hog who got a team. And then once they had like a team, they were able to beat the Pistons. And basically, Isaiah blew his hamstring out. That really helped the Bulls out a lot too. They didn't talk about that at all. But I mean, Isaiah's a jackass, and nobody gives him the time of day anyway. They kind of just pushed him to the side. But that Pacers team was the team that lost to the Celtics in '92 and got better and got better. That's how it was in the East. Every team would lose in the first round, then lose in the second, and they'd work their way up. But yeah, Horace Grant he's just talking about how, well, this happened and that happened, and Phil did this, Phil did that, and you're absolutely right. It looks like Jordan kind of told his story, and I know I'm not a huge Ken Burns fan either, but I remember early on he said it's not a real documentary because it's when your production company's involved, and Brady's got something coming out soon. I'm sure he's going to Guerreroize that thing up on too, and it's not going to be the true story of what really happened.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
It's not showing both sides. It's just showing Jordan's side.
Yep.
Wasn't the other thing that Horace Grant was mad about was that Jordan basically implied that Horace Grant was the source for that book that the Chicago writer wrote.
The Jordan rules.
See tidbits in it, and I think Jordan accused Grant of being the source for a lot of the juicy information, but now Horace Grant is saying that wasn't me.
Yeah, he said it wasn't me, but I guess the guy goes, oh well, I need a source, an inside source to write it. Then they're like, okay, well maybe it was Jerry Krause, and they don't want to throw that under the bus because they need him for fuel for some other imaginary problem that they can they can create. That whole thing was crazy, and from the outside looking in, if you're the owner of the Bulls, why didn't you just get rid of Krause if he was the issue? It seems like everybody wanted to come back, but he was the issue.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just get rid of him?
I think, and they're both Jerry Reinsdorf and Jerry Krause.
Yeah.
I think Jerry Reinsdorf just liked having Krause as the guy as like the fall guy for people to complain about. So Reinsdorf could say, I let my GM do his job. Don't look at me. Blame Jerry.
No, but after '98, I mean, that team was a dumpster fire. I mean, they had Derrick Rose, who was good until his knee blew out. They drafted, who's the guy on ESPN they drafted? He busted his knee in a motorcycle accident. They drafted Eddie Curry. I mean, they've had nothing but. I mean, I think their height since then was when they had Joakim Noah and Thibodeau, and they were okay. But I mean,
by that point, Krause had already been fired.
Right, but I mean, they could have kept that thing. I mean, all those guys. I know the last 5 minutes of it. They say, oh, I walked into the office, blah blah blah, and it's like, hey, do you want to come back? And the way I remember it, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Jordan's like, I would have done it, and then he's like, Pippen might have needed some convincing, and then Jackson was the one that said, I want to take a break right now. So I mean, but it seemed like they couldn't have made it work.
And what would have made it work to their advantage was the 1999 season was a lockout-shortened season. There were only 50 games, so a team like the Bulls, that's all veterans, would have really benefited from that type of season.
Right. And who won it in '99?
The Spurs.
Steve Kerr.
Okay, yeah. Who they invented risk management. So I mean, they probably said, hey, we won it in '99. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah.
The Bulls could have gave him a run for their money.
And I mean, you look at it, obviously, Steve, you look at the big pieces, right? That would have come back and would they have won a title? Steve Kerr won a title in '99 with the Spurs. So he technically won 4 in a row. Scottie Pippen made it to the NBA Finals 2 years later with the Trailblazers.
Was it Trailblazers or Rockets?
Trailblazers against the Lakers.
They never made it to the finals, but they almost beat the Lakers, but lost.
The Western Conference Finals, right? And then Phil Jackson obviously was on the other side of the Trailblazers teams coaching the Lakers. And then Michael came back and he was 60, and had Gilbert Arenas, pre-Gilbert Arenas, right? But he was still averaging 20, 25 a game, right? So if you, like you mentioned, Dan, strike shortened season, and those guys were still contending teams, I don't see why they wouldn't have at least made the finals, because they would have played the Pacers again. Maybe the Pacers get a better of them, but if they lose in 7 games in the ECF to the Pacers, are people really saying anything? I don't know.
You keep that team longer in Chicago, Phil might not go to LA either. The longer he stays in Chicago, and if that's the case, like I hate those stupid Oberman commercials where he's like, "Oh, he might win 5 titles if he goes to LA," and I'm like, it's like at least 2 of those I think should be here in Boston. But.
So this is a good point to transition to another documentary series that is going to be being produced and is going to be available or going to be on TV apparently in summer of 2021, Matt.
Yep. Summer 2021.
It's going to be a 9-part series. It's about Tom Brady. It sounds like it's basically going to be the Brady version of what we just saw for Michael Jordan. So it'll be about Brady, but obviously it'll be a lot about the Patriots, as this was about Michael Jordan, but it was a lot about the Bulls too. In my opinion, obviously I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be riveted by it, but I would like them to wait until Brady's totally done.
So interesting you bring that up. Everyone's talking about Brady. How long will he stay in Tampa? He signed a 2-year deal, all that.
Yeah.
Actually, I had two thoughts when I first saw it. One, everyone's going to be let down. I can already tell because, like you said, Brady production company, going to be like Jordan. Things like Deflategate, Guerrero, those things are going to get glossed over if not covered well, right? So, yeah, so we're all going to, those things are going to be left out. We're going to be disappointed. First thought. Second, the second thought is, wouldn't they wait until Brady retires? So does that mean Brady's only going to play the 1 year in Tampa? And that's why this can be shown just in case any dirty water comes out, he doesn't have to deal with repercussions. Those are my two thoughts I had.
I think, well, it was always going to be a 1 year deal, but they'd make it a 2 year deal because of the salary cap, right?
I think it's 30 and 30 or whatever.
Oh, it's not like 50 and 10 or something, the way they can massage the numbers. And
I don't think so.
okay, I remember before he signed the deal with Tampa that it was like, well, it's going to be 2, and the Raiders are like, we'll give him 42 years, for 2 years. And it's like you're never going to pay him that much, and then because of bonuses and whatnot. But I mean, Tampa's slated to win 9 games this year, maybe if they play a full season, and they're in the NFC what?
South.
So that's what, maybe a wild card.
I mean, it all depends on how long Drew Brees stays healthy.
Yeah.
And
I don't mean, how far are they going to go realistically? Like, Dan, what do you think? Can they get to the? Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna have an explosive offense, I think. So I mean, I think they could win, 9 or 10 games, and maybe even, who knows, maybe even more if things really gel.
But you wouldn't predict them, NFC conference finalist, right?
Probably not as of now, but
I mean, there's a lot to happen, I know, but It's like, regardless of where he had the playing opportunity, what team other than the Patriots could he have gone to? They want to give him the best chance to win.
I mean, you look when he came in 2000, what good coaches were there in the league? Maybe if he had gone to Philly with Andy Reid, maybe if he had gone, I don't know, maybe Parcells could have done something with him.
Andy Reid's a coach now.
He's an offensive mind, right? So like, I can't think of a lot of the good coaches from 2000. I'm sorry, I was only 7, but
was with the Cowboys.
Not yet. But that's kind of what you look at, right? Belichick needed a quarterback. He had some guys in front of him. He had Drew Bledsoe, and he had great offensive minds. Like, you can't doubt that the Patriots have had some of the greatest offensive minds to coach the game in the last 25 years.
Right, but it's been their defense that's kept them in check. I mean, like the last Super Bowl where they could barely score, you don't have that defense, you ain't gonna win. And I think
I'm just talking about building.
What I read was basically that was one of the reasons that Brady left, because he's getting frustrated with the offense. He's like, oh, great, we can score 10 points and win a game, but not when I'm here. I want to score more points. Yeah,
so like guys like Charlie West built him up to who he was. They allowed him to figure out how to throw 50 touchdowns, how to manage the game and things like that. I think you're right.
He just did this to the end zone when Randy Moss was there. That's how he figured it out.
Hey, they won 18 games. Still the most anyone's ever won a single season.
Yeah.
Do you think that, getting back to the documentary, do you think that Belichick will be participating in this documentary?
No.
And that right there, I'm still going to watch it, but that almost ruins it right there. You need to hear from Belichick in this documentary.
I don't think it's
from everybody else, though, right?
I don't think it's because they're not going to ask. I think they've probably asked multiple times. I just think Bill. Now, it all depends on when they did this. Have they done this over the last offseason? Have they been doing this for the last 5 years?
How much have they already done, right?
Yeah, because if they only started this like 8 months ago, hell no, he's not in this. If they started it, like I thought they would have retired if they had beat the Eagles. I thought Brady, Belichick, and Gronk all would have called it quits. If they were doing it then, maybe Belichick's in it and is a lot happier. Does that kind of make sense?
And ESPN also has a lot of stock footage too, because I know Bill's done the stuff with the 2 Bills.
Mm.
And I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's tons of interviews out there. I don't know what else has changed outside of what's the real reason he left. Was he frustrated? Was it a money thing? How did all that happen? How did he come back the last year? Did you guys read the story about how they think he checked out in the Steelers game? And it was like, so basically they beat the Steelers, but it was like, all right. Well, no, I think they lost to the Steelers and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But Brady was like, if this is how we're going to play, then I'm done. And then the following year it was like, okay, whatever, no big deal. He wants to put up numbers. He wants to put up some offensive numbers. He wants to sell, junk from his quack doctor, which
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that's going to be more of a big deal because, we're a bunch of scumbags in New England, basically. I mean, we're a bunch of front runners. We kiss your ass if you're on our team, but as soon as you leave, we're going to rip you apart, whether you're normal who you are. And I can't wait to see, people like Dan Masser on Twitter starting to rip Brady about how much of an idiot he is. Concussion water and all
Well,
this other
I
stuff,
saw
right?
Brady tweeted out some kind of like immunity
Yeah,
boosting.
yeah.
I mean, I just rolled my eyes, but
Yeah, now if he was on the Patriots, Dan might have. But now that he's on Tampa, he's
rolled
coming
my
out.
eyes. Like he's my boy, he's Tommy.
Yeah.
That
Now,
sounds
what do you
about
think, Matt? Is that going to change now that he's out of Boston? Is he going to get a lot more heat?
I mean, you're very much right. We here in Boston are probably the worst people. Actually, no, second worst. Philly is awful. There's nothing good about a Philadelphia Penn.
Penn State.
No, that's not Philly. That's Central Pennsylvania.
I know.
Them in
I'm saying
Pittsburgh.
Penn State in general.
Just Philly. Philly's worse. But we will if you go if you're the Patriots and they go 11-5, we're gonna be ripping them apart. We're gonna say Stidham is awful, even if he throws for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
He can't go to Kansas City this year.
No, true. I mean, he could. Oh.
Yeah, but now, Matt, Patriots go 11-5, or I guess now it would be 11-6, right, with the added game,
right?
Or 12, whatever. I feel like the expectations are going to be super low, so Patriot fans will be really excited about that. I think.
I don't think Patriot fans are that smart. I don't think any Boston fan is that smart. Because I mean, actually, I think there's maybe 10%, right? The 10% that actually understand what's going on.
Just Joe Giuliani.
Yeah, but you have. I guarantee you how many of these Patriot fans are just all they hear is ESPN talking that Jared Stidham is the worst quarterback in the league and the Patriots had the worst offseason because they didn't draft a quarterback.
Well, that's that makes the expectations low. So if they actually win some games.
Maybe, but at the same time, maybe just have faith in Bill like you've had for 20 other years. Or did maybe you didn't have faith in Bill, you had faith in Brady, and Bill's just been riding the coattails and thus Bill's not that good a coach. I think that's what it really means.
What I've heard is because nobody knows what's going to happen as far as with the training camps and everything, that continuity is going to be huge. And if you have the same coordinators and the same players in place and same personnel, you're going to be at an advantage because there's a lot of teams, guys haven't even met the head coach of their team yet. They haven't even met the coordinators yet. They don't even know where they're going to be. There's some people, they can't even practice in some states where, what do you need to tell McCourty before a game that he doesn't already know? I mean, how much do you really have to tell some of these guys where a lot of these guys coming in, a lot of rookies too, oh, yeah, I got this, that first snap, and I mean, their head explodes. They're going to read a playbook instead of just using athletic ability. There's going to be, I think the first couple of weeks of the season is going to be a lot of weird things going on.
So that's a pretty good point. If teams that have continuity are going to have a kind of
it's huge. Yeah, because you can't even you can't have a practice in some places right now. I mean, you can get a haircut like Rosselberger. Didn't he get a haircut and then they gave him a hard time? What was that, Matt? Something about that?
He had his first haircut because of all the most recent pictures of him. He looked like a freaking Neanderthal. And finally you could, But then all of a sudden, he just shaved a little and that was it.
Yeah. So. He's still looking for that tape from the surveillance camera.
Speaking of Brady, we should also mention the big golf event that's happening on Sunday. It'll be Brady and Phil Mickelson versus Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods in a big golf match for charity. I think it's going to be great. When Phil and Tiger met a couple of years ago, it was a great, made-for-TV event. It was entertaining. I think this is going to be just as entertaining, if not more so, having Peyton and Brady playing alongside them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Is that still a big deal talent-wise, though, with those two? Those two golfers, Dan, they're not, here anymore, right?
It's still Phil and Tiger.
Right. People like you give a shit, but people like me and Matt don't give a shit is what I'm saying.
Well,
so, no, it's not like the two best golfers in the world, right?
Oh, no, clearly not. But since they had that event a couple of years ago, Tiger won the Masters since then, so.
Okay, and that was, come on, I mean, the fix was in, they called that one in. A bookie called that one in. It was like, okay, I'm going to drive the ball as hard as I can this year. I'm going to win. What were the odds when he won that?
Wait, what are you
actually pretty favored?
No, when Tiger won, right? What was the last time that he had won before that?
The Masters?
No. Remember the last tournament that he won?
It was like
Remember
2014. Right
Yeah.
before.
It had been a bunch of years, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember I'm kind of like, this is a little peculiar. But anyway, but Mickelson and Woods, right? I mean, they're past their prime by now. Now they're names, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's still Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Now,
I think
because of that, what does that do to Brady and Manning as far as who can win?
In the match?
Yeah, like Mickelson is probably healthier than Woods because Woods had all the health problems, right? Like I know Woods, the big thing is now that he's not juiced on steroids, he can hit the ball as far as he used to, right?
What'd you say?
I know now that Tiger Woods is back his junk and he's not on the juice anymore, so he can't hit the ball as far as he used to. And that's the big weakness in his game, right? He still is a good technical golfer, but he doesn't have the strength that he used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where Mickelson was that ever really part of his game, or was he just better at all? He was just a good all around player.
Phil can, and he still can hit it. He can still drive it pretty well.
And he's older than Woods, though, right?
Yeah, I think Phil's about to turn 50.
Okay.
Tiger's
Senior tour.
43, maybe 44.
And then what do we know? What do we know about Manning and Brady? Their golf.
Brady's game is really good.
I think they're similar. I think they have a similar handicap. They're both low handicaps. They're both good golfers. So I think it's in the fact that I think they're pretty much the same is gonna make it a fair fight.
Yeah, so
I think
you're taking Woods just because you like Woods, or
Now I'm taking Phil and Brady.
really? Okay. Even though he's on Tampa Bay now. See, I think people in New England don't care as much because he's not on the Patriots anymore.
Oh, to watch?
Well, I mean, like I said, like a golf nerd like you loves it, but like the fact that like a football fan, because Brady's not on the Patriots anymore, I'll be like, I'll turn the channel and watch it. I won't set an appointment to watch it, or I'll watch the highlights. But like I'm sure you're gonna like a half hour before, you're gonna have your chicken wings ready, you're gonna have your beer ready, your pina coladas, or whatever you're doing that day. You're gonna be ready to party. You're gonna want to watch that.
I think it's gonna get big ratings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially now with nothing else on. Yeah, I mean, that's
right.
And I think as long as we can, the big thing that made that Tiger Phil thing was you be able to hear the commentary between the two of them. And as long as they allow you to hear the banter between the four of them, I think it'll be a hit. I think people might not tune in for the first hole, but I think it'll take over Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And by probably the fifth or sixth hole, I think it'll probably be the most watched thing on television, because if the banter is on the same level of that Tiger and Phil one, because that was what made me turn it in, right? So it was what, $20 or whatever when they did it. And I didn't watch at the beginning, but
Wasn't
then
it
once
free because they messed up the stream?
I mean, yes. And plus you could watch it other places, but
like, this is just going to be on TNT. I think it's not even like a stream.
Yeah.
So they're playing for charity, but you can't donate. Then is that what you're saying? It's just a charity event.
I don't know the logistics of it, but I know it's for charity.
Okay.
Yeah. The last time it wasn't all for charity. Some of it went to them, and it was like what? It was like $10 million or something that Phil won.
Yeah. I wonder if that will have the outcome. If it will make a difference. Well, I'd like to see Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan as the other two.
Jeez.
Just
I mean, after watching the documentary, it's like, not only is Jordan the best basketball player in the world, but I mean, you know, a lot of sponsors were like, oh, thank God people didn't see that, you know, because he's got the cigar out and the champagne out and the beer out. They all did that, but like it was the first time you saw that, you know, especially on a documentary like that.
Yeah.
Something I want to touch on, I want to jump back on that Bulls documentary. Didn't you think it was kind of weird how they glossed over like Ron Harper completely? How like he was like a 20-point scorer and they just threw him on the bench.
I think the only time he spoke in the whole documentary was towards the beginning, because he was on the Cleveland Cavaliers team when Jordan hit that buzzer beater, and he wanted to cover Jordan, but the coach put someone else on him. Or he
was like, all right, go ahead.
That was the only time we heard from Ron Harper.
Yeah, did anything that was kind of weird?
Yeah, he was a significant part of the second three-peat. Yeah. But I mean, there probably just wasn't much as far as like interesting juice from him.
I want to see the stuff that didn't make the documentary. I think that'd be more interesting. I guarantee there's a lot of footage. Like they claim they couldn't go to Australia. They didn't have the money in the budget. That's why they didn't talk to Luke Longley. I'm like, okay.
No, it's just you look at the guys that they didn't talk to because they didn't care for, right? The Harper one is shocking, especially because they had him in there. If you didn't have him in there at all, I'd be like, okay, maybe he either A, didn't want to, or B, whatever reason, just said no, something like that. The interesting one was all the extra parts to that 97-98, the team it's supposed to be based on. Like
Right.
Robert Parrish is one of the greatest Celtics of all time.
That
Went
was a
to
great
that
story.
team and then my dad forgot that he was on there because they
And
didn't even
John
mention it.
Sally played for them. A lot of the guys who were on the Pistons team ended up playing on the bench for the Bulls.
But like Parrish and Sally like didn't even really play.
Well, did you hear the story, Dan, about Parrish?
No.
So they're in practice, right? And I guess he messes up like a play, and Michael Jordan's trying to get into his face, and he's like, "I have titles, so like unlike some of these other guys, I'm not scared of you." And Jordan just kind of backed down, like walked away, which I thought was
cheat?
kind of funny. Yeah,
The Chiefs-
yeah. But John Sally ended up on the Bulls. You're right. I mean, they didn't play that much. It was kind of like Scalabrine ran back to put his uniform on, so he can get champagne on the uniform instead of like the suit. And what does he say? In 5 years, I'm going to tell him I was on the bench. In 10 years, I'm going to tell him I was on the starting lineup.
Yeah.
In 25 years, I'm going to tell him that I was the MVP.
Yeah.
That's what those guys are going to be like. But
Yeah.
a lot going on with that Bulls stuff. The golf stuff should be interesting. Prediction, Dan, on the golf. Who's going to win the golf?
I'm going to root for Phil and Brady, so I'll predict that they'll win.
I think Phil's game's in a better place, and I think Brady's better than Manning.
All right. And Matt, you got just a little over 2 minutes to talk about some soccer.
Oh yeah,
All right,
rant.
this isn't even about soccer. This is about the whole getting back sports in general. All right. So in sports, there's replay systems, right? We all have it. We have it in NHL, football, NBA. There's replay, video replay. In European soccer, same thing. They had a limit on the number of people allowed in the arena, 320 people. 115 of those were video replay people. Why the hell do you need 115 people, over a third of the amount of people, for something one intern can do in a back room? I don't get that. And if that's holding up sports coming back in this country, I'm going to start raising hell. I don't know how, but I will.
If
Don't get
Alex Cora can figure out the video, then one intern can. You're right.
How is that holding things up? It's not holding anything up.
Well, because they need to figure out who can come in, who can't, how many tests do they have. If you get rid of 115 people and say limit it down to 20, all of a sudden that 320 limit they have can cut down to 220, right?
It's like a big
That's a lot
production
easier.
company going to do a game, and then a little public access station showing up with 3 people and doing the same thing.
Yeah, it doesn't take 100 people to run the instant replay.
No.
You're telling
Unless
me.
you're at ESPN.
Yeah. All right. We did it again, folks. Good job. For Brian, for Matt, I'm Dan. Spin the damn music. We'll talk to you soon.
Made it.